The box wasn't mine. It sat on the doorstep when I got home, addressed to Kayla in neat black ink. But the delivery guy must have mixed up the numbers. I carried it inside, the cardboard heavy against my hip, and set it on the kitchen counter. My fingers hesitated before slicing the tape, curiosity pulling like a thread I couldn't ignore. Inside, tissue paper rustled, and there it was. A dress. Deep blue silk folding out like a secret. My heart quickened. Kayla was out for the weekend, the apartment silent except for the hum of the fridge. What if she had a life I didn't know about? The fabric caught the fading light, impossibly soft when I brushed it. It stirred something unnamed, a longing I'd buried under hoodies and jeans. I should put it away, but my hand lingered, the silk whispering against my skin as evening deepened, drawing me into the quiet room. I fumbled deeper into the box, careful not to tear anything, as if this were some fragile artifact. The dress unfolded fully now, lace edges catching the dim overhead light, delicate patterns like veins under thin skin. A faint scent rose, lavender, soft and unexpected, mixing with the neutral air of our shared space. My hands trembled. What did this mean for Kayla? Was this her hidden side? The one she kept from late-night talks over takeout? I'd always seen her as confident, effortless in her sundresses and laughter. But this felt deeper, more private. I glanced at the door, half expecting her key in the lock, but the apartment stayed still. Just me, alone with this pull. Before I could stop, I slipped one sleeve over my arm. The material clung lightly, cool at first, then warming like it belonged. Foreign, yes, but comforting in a way that tightened my chest. Old discomforts surfaced. Memories of staring too long at women's clothes in stores, dismissing it as idle thoughts. Shadows stretching in the afternoon light we'd chased away with blinds. I paced the living room, the hem brushing my jeans if I held it close, whispering against the fabric like a secret shared. Each step tested it. Light, fluid. Not the weight I carried daily. My breath came uneven. Why did this feel right? Like slipping into a dream I'd forgotten. I stopped by the window, glancing at the full-length mirror across the hall from afar. My silhouette shifted subtly in the dimming light, broader at the shoulders but softened by the drape. Not me. Or maybe the me I'd ignored. The room grew quieter as dusk settled, shadows pooling in corners. My mind raced with questions. Was this intrusion or invitation? Kayla wouldn't mind. She was open, always pushing me to try new things. But this was different, internal. Stirring doubts I'd shoved down since college, when fitting in meant blending, not standing out. The lavender scent lingered on my skin, faint but insistent, pulling me back to the dress. I folded it halfway, then stopped. The pull to try more whispered undeniable now, as night fell heavier outside. I retreated to the bathroom, the door clicking shut behind me like a decision made. The light was harsher here, fluorescent buzzing softly overhead, casting my shadow long against the tiled wall. My hands moved on their own, peeling away the usual layers. Jeans first, then the faded t-shirt that had become armor. Cool air rushed in, hitting bare skin like a question I wasn't ready to answer. Vulnerability settled heavy in my chest, a tightness that made each breath deliberate. Why now? Why this? The apartment felt too vast suddenly, echoing with the what-ifs I'd ignored for years. The dress waited on the counter, folded but alive in the light, its blue silk gleaming faintly. I lifted it, the weight lighter than expected, and stepped in. Fabric cascaded down, settling around my hips with a whisper. The waist cinching just right. Not tight, but present, like it knew where to hold. My stomach twisted, nerves coiling low. A flutter that mixed fear with something warmer, unnamed. It breathed against me, soft as a forgotten dream. The silk shifting with each inhale, molding without clinging. Lavender lingered from earlier, now closer, wrapping around my senses like a secret shared in the steam of past showers. I stood there, unmoving at first, letting it sink in. Why did this feel right? Not wrong, not some fleeting curiosity, but a quiet echo of something buried deep. Childhood glances at dresses and catalogs, dismissed as nothing. College nights alone, wondering why my reflection never quite fit. The material moved with me as I turned slowly, hands smoothing the skirt in tentative strokes, fabric bunching softly under my palms. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, steady but insistent, drowning the distant hum of traffic outside. It wasn't just cloth. It was possibility. Fluid and light, easing the shapeless weight I'd carried without naming. Small movements followed. A step to the side, the hem brushing my thighs, sending a shiver up my spine. I lifted an arm, watching the sleeve drape, empty but graceful. The mirror above the sink caught the edge of my face, eyes wider than usual, lips parted in quiet wonder. Doubt flickered then, sharp as the cool tile underfoot. What if Kayla came back early? Her key in the lock, the door swinging open to this, me, exposed in her secret. The hallway sounded too close, every creak a warning, pulling me back to the boy I'd always been, safe in his invisibility. But the dress held, unmoving, as if daring me to stay. I smoothed my hands down the sides again, feeling the curve it suggested. Subtle, but there. The air felt thicker now, charged with the scent and the silk, my skin alive under it all. Questions swirled. Was this me trying on a life? Or finally seeing the one underneath? The vulnerability hadn't faded. It deepened, rooting in my chest like a hesitant breath. I glanced at the door, half expecting interruption. But the apartment stayed silent, giving me this space. The pull grew, undeniable, drawing my gaze beyond the small mirror to the one in the hall. It called louder now, promising answers in the glass. If I could just step out. I stepped out of the bathroom, the door easing shut with a soft click that echoed too loudly in the hallway. The dress moved with me, silk whispering against my legs, a constant reminder of the line I'd crossed. The full-length mirror waited at the end of the hall, framed in plain wood, reflecting the dim lamplight from the living room. My bare feet padded across the cool hardwood, each step deliberate, heart thudding like it might break through my ribs. The air felt heavier here, charged with the fading lavender and the weight of what I was about to see. I didn't rush. Part of me wanted to turn back, to fold the dress away and pretend this pull never happened. But the other part, the one that had stirred since the box arrived, drew me forward. Hesitant, but insistent. I stopped just short of the mirror, toes curling against the floor. The light from the single bulb overhead slanted across the glass, casting a warm glow that softened the edges of my shadow. I took a breath, deep and uneven, and stepped fully into view. My breath caught, sharp in my throat, like ice cracking underfoot. The outline staring back wasn't the one I knew. the broad shoulders slouched under hoodies, the jeans that hid any curve. This was softer. The dress framing my body in fluid lines, the blue silk draping over hips that suddenly seemed less angular, more present. It clung just enough to suggest shapes I'd never acknowledged. The neckline dipping subtly to reveal collarbones that looked delicate in this light, not hidden. The color warmed my pale skin, turning it luminous under the lamp's haze, like sunlight filtering through thin clouds. My eyes met my own gaze in the glass. Gray-blue, wider now, framed by lashes that suddenly seemed longer, more expressive. I blinked, and the reflection blinked back. Unfamiliar, yet achingly right. Tears pricked at the corners, hot and unexpected, blurring the edges for a moment. This version of me didn't feel hidden, buried under layers of pretense. It felt exposed, but in a way that breathed, like emerging from a heavy fog into clear air. The realization dawned slow, settling in my chest like a stone dissolving. This was me, or the me I'd kept locked away. Not some costume, but a truth peeking through the cracks. Memories surfaced then, unbidden, heavy like old coats I'd worn too long and never questioned. Childhood afternoons in my room, flipping through magazines, lingering on the dresses with their flowing skirts, feeling a twist in my gut I called confusion. High school locker rooms, changing quickly to avoid mirrors that lied. The ache of not fitting the role assigned. College nights alone, scrolling past stories online, hearts quickening at tales of transition, dismissed as distant curiosities. Those feelings had piled up, shapeless and silent, weighing me down without a name. Now, in this dress, they shed, like that weight lifting, leaving something lighter, more fluid. My throat tightened. I'd spent years blending, safe in neutrality. But here, in the quiet hall, blending felt like erasure. I reached up, fingers tentative, adjusting my hair, short but tousled from the day's rush, falling unevenly over my forehead. I smoothed it back, tucking a strand behind my ear. The motion small, but new, graceful in the mirror's gaze. My lips parted slightly, wonder pulling them into a soft curve. And in that silence, a name formed, unvoiced but clear. Alexis. It hung there, unspoken, fitting the reflection like the silk fit my skin. Natural. Impossible to ignore. I tilted my head, watching how the light caught the lace at the neckline, how my shoulders relaxed without the usual hunch. The dress moved with the shift, settling deeper as if claiming the space. Time slowed in that gaze, the apartment's hum fading to a distant pulse. Acceptance flickered, warm and fragile. Amid the lingering fear, what if this was temporary, a trick of the light? What if Kayla walked in and saw not a friend, but a stranger? My hands rested at my sides, fingers brushing the fabric, grounding me in the sensation. It wasn't euphoria, not yet. It was recognition. Quiet and profound, like finding a missing piece in the dim glow. The tears eased, leaving a faint track on my cheek. But I didn't wipe it away. This me, Alexis, deserved to be seen, even if just by my own eyes. The moment stretched, then ebbed, practicality creeping in like the cooling air. Thoughts turned to the dress's origin, to Kayla's return, to what came next in this unraveling secret. I lingered a second longer, the mirror holding my gaze, before stepping back, the silk shifting one last time. I stepped away from the mirror at last, the image lingering like an after-image burned into my vision. The silk felt heavier now, not burdensome but insistent, as if it knew I couldn't hold on to this forever. My fingers found the zipper at the side, cool metal under my touch, and I eased it down slowly, the fabric parting with a soft sigh. It slipped from my shoulders first, pooling at my elbows, then cascading to the floor in a blue whisper. I stepped out carefully, folding it with hands that still trembled faintly, the lavender scent clinging to my skin like a fading echo. Naked from the waist up in just my undershirt now, the air rushed back in, cooler and sharper against my bare arms, reminding me of the boy I'd been minutes ago, or thought I was. I carried the dress to the counter, laying it atop the box, but my feet didn't stop. Pacing took over, back and forth across the living room, the hardwood chill seeping through my socks. My mind churned, words tumbling without sound. Was that real? The reflection, the name, Alexis, forming like breath on glass. Or just a momentary escape, a trick of the dim light and empty apartment. The undershirt hung loose, shapeless against my frame, pulling me back to the familiar discomfort, the way clothes had always felt like ill-fitting skins. I rubbed my arms, chasing goosebumps that weren't just from the cold. It had felt luminous, fluid, not this heavy neutrality. But now, alone with the quiet, doubt crept in, coiling tight in my stomach like static waiting to spark. I sank onto the couch for a moment, then stood again, restless. The laptop sat on the coffee table, screen dark but tempting, a portal to questions I hadn't voiced. My hand hovered before flipping it open, the fan whirring to life like a hesitant confession. Fingers flew across the keys, searches for feeling right in women's clothes. Why does this pull at me? Words I'd never typed before. Forums loaded, threads spilling out like shared secrets in the glow of the screen. Stories mirrored my own stirrings. Men describing the first touch of silk, the mirror's quiet shock, the buried longing surfacing like roots breaking soil. One post caught me. It wasn't a phase. It was the start. My throat tightened. These weren't distant lives. They echoed the twist in my chest, the way the dress had settled. Natural and impossible. Deeper I went, curiosity sharpening like a blade I couldn't sheathe. HRT flickered into the results. Hormone replacement therapy. Words I'd skimmed in passing but never lingered on. I clicked, breath shallow, reading about estrogen softening edges, redistributing weight to hips and chest, voice lightening over time. Descriptions painted changes subtle at first. Skin smoother under fingertips. Fat shifting like sand in an hourglass. Curves emerging where lines had been stark. My pulse quickened. I imagined it. My reflection evolving. The blue silk draping over a body that matched the inside. No more fighting the drape. Breasts budding like secrets unfolding. Thighs fuller. The mirror showing Alexis without the hunch of hiding. Fear mixed with hope. A flutter low in my belly, warm and terrifying. What would it feel like? That alignment. Not just cloth, but flesh yielding to the truth I'd glimpsed. The screen blurred for a second, my eyes stinging from the blue light or unshed tears. I couldn't tell. Forums brimmed with warnings, too. Side effects like tides, emotional waves crashing harder, the irreversibility of steps taken. One user wrote of the first pill, "It felt like permission." But another confessed the doubt that lingered, the family ties straining like old seams. I scrolled faster, heart echoing in my ears, the apartment's silence amplifying each click. This wasn't idle reading. It planted something deep, a seed cracking open in the dark soil of my chest. Hope bloomed, hesitant, imagining mornings where the undershirt felt wrong, not safe, where I reached for the dress without pause. Kayla's knowing smile across the breakfast table. But fear rooted too. What if this was madness? What if I ruined the easy rhythm we'd built, sharing rent and stories? Her seeing me as the neutral friend, not this unraveling version.
I slammed the laptop shut, tabs vanishing like thoughts suppressed. But the words stayed, etched in the quiet. My pacing resumed, faster now, hands clenching at my sides. The seed wouldn't bury. It pulled toward change, subtle but steady, like the lavender still faint on my skin. Suppress it? Maybe for tonight, but the churn didn't stop. Real or escape, it had shifted something irreversible. I glanced at the clock, the numbers blurring slightly. Kayla's return loomed, her key the punctuation to this internal storm. The apartment felt smaller, charged, as if the walls held their breath with me. Then the door clicked, sharp, real, shattering the haze. Kayla's voice called from the entry, casual and warm. "Hey, I'm back early. Traffic was a nightmare." My stomach dropped. The dress hidden, but the secret weighing heavier in our shared space, pulling me toward the inevitable. Kayla's voice pulled me from the haze, her keys jangling as she kicked off her shoes in the entry. I forced a breath, steadying my hands on the laptop, now closed, hiding the tabs like buried evidence. "In here," I called back, voice even, though my pulse hammered. She appeared in the doorway, bag slung over one shoulder, hair tousled from the drive, wearing that easy sundress that always made her look like summer had settled on her skin. "Hey," she said, dropping the bag with a thud. "You okay? You look spaced." I managed a nod, gesturing to the couch. "Just tired. Long day." We fell into the evening routine without thinking, her grabbing water from the fridge, me flipping on the TV to some mindless show about city life, the kind we half-watched while talking. She sank beside me, legs tucked under, the faint scent of her perfume mixing with the lingering lavender on my skin. Casual talk flowed, her weekend plans derailed by rain, a funny story about a coworker spilling coffee in a meeting. I laughed at the right spots, but it masked the turmoil turning inside, words sticking like half-formed thoughts. Every glance at her stirred something. Her posture relaxed, dress draping naturally, no hesitation in how she moved. Envy flickered quiet, a subtle ache. She embodied the fluidity I'd just glimpsed, effortless where I felt locked. Her eyes met mine during a lull, curious but kind. "Seriously, what's up? You're quieter than usual." I shrugged it off. Just overthinking work. But my gaze traced her confidence, the way her bracelet caught the light, simple silver glinting. It wasn't jealousy, not exactly. More a mirror to what I'd felt in the dress, the ease I craved. The show droned on, commercials breaking the rhythm, and I nodded along, the secret heavy between us like unspoken fog. She didn't push, just leaned back, sharing the armrest in that roommate way that felt safe, until her phone buzzed, a text pulling her to a room for a quick call. "Be back,"
she murmured, leaving the space empty again.
Alone, the apartment sighed into quiet, the TV's glow casting shadows across the counter. My eyes drifted to the box, half hidden now under a towel I'd thrown over it in haste. The pull returned, insistent as the heartbeat I'd felt earlier. I waited, ears straining for her voice through the wall, then slipped to the kitchen. Hand steady this time, I unfolded the dress once more, silk cool under my fingers, lavender faint, but there. Back in my room, door cracked for any sound, I stripped down, the air raising chills on my skin. The dress slid on easier now, settling like it remembered. Waist hugging with that subtle cinch, hem brushing my thighs in welcome. Dim lamplight filtered from the bedside, warm and low, softening the edges of the space. I moved to Kayla's door, left ajar in her rush, and hesitated, then stepped in. Her drawer yielded a scarf, soft gray with fringe, and a few bangles, thin gold that clinked like distant chimes when I slipped them on. The scarf draped over my shoulders, light as breath, adding layers to the silk. The bangles warmed against my wrist, a soft jingle with each shift. Back in my room, I turned before the small mirror there, motions fluid now, arms lifting, skirt swaying. The old self feeling distant, shapeless like fog burning off in morning light. It wasn't just the dress. It was the additions, turning curiosity into something whole. My steps lighter, spine straightening without effort. Emotional layers built, each one peeling back the hesitation. The silk breathed with me, scarf brushing my neck like encouragement, bangles marking time in quiet ticks. I felt fluid, motions connecting in a rhythm I'd never known, turning, the fabric whispering approval, old discomforts fading to echoes. Alexis stirred stronger, name settling in my chest like a natural pulse. No longer foreign. But practicality nagged. Kayla's call would end, her knock inevitable. The idea of sharing bloomed, heart racing at the edges, words forming hesitant in my mind, breaths shaping. I found your dress, and it felt like me. Vulnerability loomed, terrifying and right. The secret too big to hold alone. I paced once, twice, the clink of bangles grounding me. When her knock came, light on my door, unbidden yet here. Alex, can I come in? My hand froze mid-pace, the bangles clinking softly like a held breath. The door felt miles away, but I crossed the room in 3 steps, heart thudding against the silk. Yeah, I said, voice thinner than I meant, cracking the knob open just enough. Kayla slipped in, her sundress brushing the frame, eyes scanning the dim space. Lamp glow catching the edges of my bed, the scattered books on the nightstand. She paused, gaze dropping to the bundled fabric draped over my chair, the blue silk peeking out like a half-spoken truth. Her eyes widened, not in shock, but understanding, soft as the light filtering through the blinds. That's my dress, she said quietly. No accusation, just the weight of recognition settling between us. I nodded, throat tight, the words tumbling before I could catch them. I found the box on the doorstep. It wasn't for me, but I opened it, and then I tried it on. My fingers twisted the scarf's fringe, the motion grounding as heat rose to my face. It felt right, like something inside me woke up. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, but it stirred this thing I've buried for years. The confession hung, stuttered and raw.
the air thickening with lavender and the faint trace of her perfume. I braced for judgment, for the easy out of, "That's weird." But she just closed the door behind her. Soft click sealing the space.
She crossed to the bed, sitting on the edge with a nod that invited me down beside her. "Don't apologize," she murmured, voice steady, eyes meeting mine without flinching. "I've been there. Curiosities that don't fit the box everyone expects." She leaned back against the headboard, legs curling up, the sundress pooling around her knees. "Back in college, I tried stuff too. Makeup from my sister's drawer, a skirt once when no one was home. It scared me, how natural it felt. But I pushed it down, until I couldn't." Her words wove in, no rush, sharing her past like a bridge over the gap. No judgment lingered, just empathy, quiet and warm, easing the knot in my chest. We sat close, shoulders almost touching, the mattress dipping under our weight. "Tell me," she said, turning toward me, hand resting light on the blanket between us. I did, halting at first, then spilling. The mirror's revelation, the name Alexis forming silent in my mind, the fluid pull of the silk against my skin. "It's not just the dress," I whispered, voice breaking. "It's like I've been wearing the wrong shape my whole life. Heavy, contained." Tears pricked again, hot trails down my cheeks, and she didn't look away, her own eyes glistening, hand finding mine, fingers interlacing soft. The touch grounded, acceptance wrapping around the fear like warm fabric, loosening the tremble in my limbs. HRT came up then, hesitant from my lips. The forums I'd read, the curiosity about hormones softening edges, aligning body to the inside. What if I tried that? Estrogen. Changes that make this real. Her questions followed, empathetic and unhurried. How does it feel? Imagining it. The fear part. We talked in whispers. Her sharing a friend's story of first steps. The emotional waves that came with pills dissolving under the tongue. No rush to decide. Just space to voice the hope flickering amid the doubt. Curves emerging. Voice lightening. The mirror showing Alexis, without apology. Tears shared now. Hers brushing my shoulder as she squeezed my hand. The release flooding out like breath held too long. In that quiet, promises formed. Her support for doctor visits, late nights scrolling resources together. The first name change whispered like a vow. "You're not alone," she said, voice threading through the dim. Night settled outside, stars pricking the dark beyond the window. Our secret transforming into a shared beginning. Fragile, but rooted deep. Morning light filtered through the blinds, soft and insistent, pulling me from a sleep that had come uneasy, tangled in dreams of silk and shifting shapes. I woke slowly, the bed warm around me, but my eyes went straight to the chair where the dress still draped, no longer bundled or hidden, just there, blue folds catching the dawn like a quiet promise. No rush to fold it away now. The secret had spilled, shared in the night, leaving the room lighter, less edged. I sat up, the sheets whispering against my skin, and felt the shift inside. Subtle, like fog lifting from a still pond. My body moved differently this morning, lighter in the shoulders, the old hunch absent as I swung my legs over the edge. Alexis settled in my chest, not a foreign word anymore, but a natural breath, fitting the quiet pulse of waking. I padded to the mirror in the hall, the hardwood cool underfoot, and paused. The reflection held no shock now, just me.
in the faded t-shirt and shorts from last night, but with eyes that lingered longer, tracing the lines that the dress had softened. It wasn't the silk making the change. It was deeper, rooted in the confession. Kayla's hand in mine, the tears that had washed away the containment. The name hummed, Alexis, like a secret finally voiced, easing the shapeless weight I'd carried for years. I touched my arm, skin still faintly scented with lavender, a reminder of the pull that had started it all. No more burying. This was the beginning. Hesitant but steady, like sunlight warming stone. Subtle planning stirred as I dressed. Jeans again, but looser, the t-shirt untucked for once. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from a forum I'd bookmarked in the haze of last night. First steps? Start with a name. I typed back, fingers hesitant but sure. Sharing the mirror moment without details. The responses filtering in like distant echoes. "You're not alone," one said. Another linking to local groups. Curiosity about HRT bloomed anew. Not urgent, but present. Imagining the softening, the alignment that forums promised in careful words. A doctor's visit, maybe. Estrogen's quiet work. Edges blurring into fluid curves. Fear lingered, a faint twist in my gut. But hope wrapped around it now. Warm as the morning light spilling across the counter. Kayla's door creaked open down the hall, her footsteps light as she emerged, hair tousled, wearing an oversized sweater that dwarfed her frame. She paused in the kitchen, pouring coffee, then slid a small pouch across the counter without a word. A makeup sample. Neutral gloss in a pale pink tube. The kind she'd mentioned once for bad days. Quiet encouragement in the act. No fanfare. Just her eyes meeting mine over the rim of her mug. A nod that said, "We were in this together." I took it, fingers brushing hers, the tube cool and small in my palm. A gesture that rooted the acceptance deeper, turning vulnerability into something shared. Possible. I moved to the window, staring out at the street below. Cars humming past, people blurring in the early rush. The world outside seeming less sharp, more open. The city stretched, buildings catching the sun like invitations. And for the first time, it felt like space for me, for Alexis, to step into. No longer contained, but fluid, luminous in the light. The journey pulsed soft and steady now, a heartbeat syncing with the quiet morning. Acceptance weaving through the lingering echoes of doubt. The dress hung openly now on the closet door, sunlight catching its folds like a whispered promise, turning blue silk luminous in the morning haze. If this resonated with your own quiet discoveries, subscribe to Just Kinda Lily for more stories like this. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next step in the journey.